When I made this channel, I decided I wanted to start uploading a lot of sim racing videos to YouTube. And while I've never kind of specifically said this channel should be just for sim racing. It it has mainly just been that. I don't think I've anything else I've ever uploaded or live streamed anything else really here, barring sim racing. But today I'm going to make an exception. And unfortunately, it's due to bad news for me because my poor, lovely cat, Missy, passed away there this morning. Uh, so I wrote some stuff down because I knew I wouldn't be able to think these things uh, off the top of my head. It would be better to have it structured down. I'm mainly doing this video for me. No other reason. It's definitely one of those videos that I need to do for me. And one that I hope I'll watch again in a few years' time. And if I'm feeling down, it might pick me back up again. So yeah, Missy passed away this morning as I record this video at around 8:25 a.m. on 6th of January, or February, not January, February 2023. I woke up this morning and my parents let me know she was on her last moments, because we had known in the last day or two she was in a good bit of bother. And luckily I was able to be there with her for her last moments in our kitchen. She was nearly 18 years of age. She actually would have turned 18. I think it would have been, I'm not fully sure, but I think it was around March, April or something, I think, when she would have been 18. So she was an old cat. She lived a long, long, happy life. So let's get back to my script properly. So Missy truly was a wonderful cat. For her whole life, she never grew that much. She stayed small and dainty, never grew as big as many of the other cats that I have seen, that my cousins or friends or ones I'd see on the road. Missy was all black, but she did have some white hairs on her chest, just under her chin, as a little kind of fashion statement or a bit of pizzazz. In the second part of her life, though, we had noticed one of her whiskers had become pure white, like the hairs on her chin. It was the only whisker that did turn white, and it never dropped out or anything. It remained there all the way. And my younger brother used to refer to her as Admiral White Whisker when we had noticed this. We got Missy when I was 11. So I'm 28 now, nearly 29, be 29 in about 10 days' time. So got her when I was 11, and I was still in primary school at that age. I was about end of 5th class, so I really was a kid when we first got her. She's been there since I was a kid, through my teens, and nearly all of my 20s. It's quite surreal to think back how young I was when I first got her, and how much of my life and all the changes in my life that she has been a part of. Missy was a friend who was there for me through thick and thin. She really was an affectionate cat who loved nothing more than to cuddle up on a lap and get some love and attention. You could really tell when she was happy with the pats she was receiving, as she would start drooling constantly from her mouth onto your lap or onto your hand. It sounds disgusting maybe, but it was lovely, really. She was a great source of relaxation to lie down and sit with, especially on the days when I wasn't feeling the greatest and needed someone to unwind with the most. I never felt she was judging me or anything. I could just know I could relax there and have my own thoughts in my head. But no, I was getting comfort and love from her. There was many nights, and especially for a few years, where she did sleep on my bed during the night, and it really was a lovely feeling to wake up in the morning, reach out towards my feet, and feel her lovely soft fur right there, and give her a few pats while lying on the bed. Uh, in in our last few years, she would actually meow at myself and my parents in the house if we hadn't gone to sleep. Uh, if we were still in the sitting room watching TV and it was time to go to bed. And she would start meowing at us and nearly trying to herd us to the bedroom so that she could curl up onto one of our beds right beside us, knowing we were right there by her side to take care of her. She knew how to find the real warm and hot spots in the house. During the day, she would move around the house to the different rooms that had the warm light pouring through the windows. So, she'd move from one room. She'd always be in a bedroom in the morning, move to a city or the sunroom at the other part of the house during the afternoon and that. And maybe then in the evenings, she would cuddle up on the windowsill behind the curtain above a hot radiator. Or in these last 2 years especially, she would plant herself right by the toasty fire to have a sauna for herself. She would sit right up on top of it. Really nice. Not only was Missy good at relaxing and cuddling with, but she was also a very playful and energetic cat when she was up and at it. We got her originally and my previous dog, Skaha, within a week or two of each other back in 2005. Wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because when I was 11, it was 2005. So, and the two of them, sorry, let me find where I'm in my script. So, yeah, and the two of them, Missy and Skaha, would get up to all sorts of shenanigans, be it play fighting with each other or chasing around each other around the house or in the garden. When we used to take Skaha outside into the yard to kick a ball with, Missy would actually, within a few minutes, follow us outside and join in on the fun. So, as we kicked the ball across to each other and let Skaha chase it, Missy would get out and be right by it, and then as soon as the ball went by her, she would kind of time her run to just cut across just behind her in front of the ball to try and catch the dog's attention. So that she could initiate a little chase around the mound that is in the back of our garden. It was hilarious to see because Skaha was a big German Shepherd and Missy was a tiny cat, and it just was a lot of fun. In her prime years, she was a fearless adventurer and hunter. During the day, she could jump and climb to all sorts of heights. This would involve jumping up to the open windows to get in and out of the house, climbing a stack of boxes or planks of wood to get to a nice spot to sleep in. There was a few years where she would actually get out and onto the roof of the house and just be looking about, getting a whole view of the garden and that. And then the most impressive acrobatic skill I saw her do, and she did this quite a few times, was she would jump up a bunch of planks of wood and boxes that were up in the storage room, in the room that I actually do my sim racing in. And then beside that, we had a table tennis table, but the boards were raised, it wasn't being used, so the boards were raised up. And she would jump from those boxes onto the thin vertical part of the board of the table tennis table, and then shuffle across, barely, on this piece of board that's like, I don't know, 2 centimeters thick at most or something, maybe an inch at most, shimmy across from one side to the other, and then leap off to get onto a kind of a tall press or wardrobe that she would then go to sleep on top of. It was terrifying the first time I saw her, and then it just became the party trick that she had. It was crazy, and I won't forget that skill and talent she had. At night, she would patrol the garden on the hunt, where she would let everyone know that she was the boss of the domain that was our garden. She, unfortunately, she caught many a little critter and had her way with them. But that's, she was a cat, and that's what cats do, and she was living her life and doing what cats do best. Missy definitely lived up to the statement of cats having 9 lives. But she never let bad experience hold her down. And I think that's another thing I'll remember most about her. And the biggest lesson that I'll try and learn from her. Her ability to adapt to dramatic changes in her life was so admirable. I'm someone who I felt, especially in the last decade, I've struggled to deal with life and its changes. It's got me down quite a bit, and I've struggled to move on from certain things. So, seeing how my cat been able to do it, to me was most impressive, and something maybe I'll try and start doing a bit more in my life. So I have a few examples that I'd like to mention. So the first example was in 2014. My previous dog, Skaha, unfortunately, and this is the dog that we got within a week of Missy, so they were best buds. But unfortunately, Skaha passed away far too early at about the age of 8 years of age. This was a major shock to Missy. One day, Skaha woke up basically, and she was not in a good way. I was away at college at the time, so I didn't know this was happening. But Skaha wasn't in a good way, and she didn't greet my parents when she woke up. She just stayed in the corner of my room, or the room that she slept in with the cat, the utility room. And my parents knew something was up, so they brought her as quick as they could to the vet. And Skaha had to stay at the pet that evening and through the night. Missy was really distressed that day, and when my parents had come home, they actually had seen her all the way down the road, basically, looking for Skaha, because she knew something was wrong with Skaha. And this was something Missy never did. She normally kept to our garden and maybe the field next door, but she never ran out the road and down it ages, or for a while. Because she was reliant on Skaha. Skaha was her friend and her protector when they were from day one, basically, when they were in the house. So the day after that, unfortunately, Skaha passed away. She didn't make it, and she was brought home, and brought home to be buried. And while my parents were waiting for me and my older brother to get home from college to bury poor Skaha, my parents, along with my younger brother, brought Missy out to show her Skaha, basically. And my brother, who was holding Missy, said he could literally feel her heart start pounding, and saw her eyes widen as she saw Skaha on the floor, and she was just processing that Skaha was gone. But then, within a few minutes, once she had processed it, they said she began to relax again. And then, fairly soon, within the next few days, she was back to herself. And she began to live her life and adjust to her new life, and move on. So, while she lost someone that was dear and close to her for basically her whole life, she learned that, okay, I'm gonna just have to move on now and live my life. It was great while it lasted, but I'm not going to sit here and mope about all day. So the example two then of Missy's ability to adapt was when we got my current dog, Demi, in 2015. So about a couple of months after Scott had passed away. Missy's life was pretty much upturned again after that. We had to move. So she used to sleep in the utility room with Skaha and then on her own for those few months. But when we got Demi was to sleep in there, and we decided we're going to have to move Missy out of there because we didn't know how they get along. So we had to move her bedroom, her litter box, all her food dishes out of that room and into another part of the house. Missy wasn't really the wildest on Demi initially. She really didn't want to have anything to do with her for a good while, just kept to other parts of the house and that. But over the years, she grew to tolerate Demi at first. And then in these last few years especially, she would hang around in the house near Demi, walk by Demi. Maybe not as close as she had been with Skaha, but they got on quite well, and they'd sleep, in spots next to each other with the family during the day and in the evenings, and a few times they would play with each other. Yeah, it was nice to see that at least she got to have a second friend, close friend like Demi in her life. And then the third main example, I suppose, would be about 3, maybe 4 years ago. I had noticed Missy had gone deaf. I hadn't picked up on it at first, but I realized she wasn't reacting. She was getting surprised by me when I had walked up to her and patted her. She wasn't, she didn't anticipate it 3 steps early. She only was reacting to it as soon as my hand touched her. So I realized she had gone deaf, especially when I began testing it out. And she wasn't then, as a result, she wasn't going outdoors as much because, she wasn't able to hear things around her. She kind of wasn't able to hunt as well because, she wasn't able to hear things. Then in the last year or two, her movement, especially because she wasn't moving out and about as much, but her movement began to get worse and her hips began to go. She found it much tougher to get around the house. She wasn't able to jump up onto the beds the way she used to be, and certainly not up the windows to get out of the house like she used to. The spring was gone, and she'd have to either have little steps, like I placed out some boxes by chairs and stuff around the house and near my room, so that she could, always have little steps up to get to the bed rather than doing the one big jump that she used to be able to do. We did get some help from the vets to help improve that mobility a bit, but it never got, it was never going to get back to the way it was. She was getting old. The body was going down, unfortunately. But she never let that get her or her mentality down. I would have said for these last 2 years that she was still a really, really, and I can't stress that enough how much of a really happy cat she was. She was still able to get to a bunch of her sleeping spots around the house, and we moved all her things into a bit more of an accessible location for her. So she was well able to get around and get to the things she wanted to. She snoozed throughout the day and night a bit more, but she was very much well able to get up, meow at us, and follow us around the house until we gave her some food or sat down on her lap to give her some affection. And that really was up until the last few days, really. It is only in the last 2 days, really, she was on her last legs, and her time was up. We buried Missy, so I'm just going on to the outro now. We buried Missy today in my front garden. It's right outside my bedroom window actually, and it's right by a large bush that she used to go patrolling on around and under, and also she used to sit in front of in the sun would shine in front of it on the pebbles, and she used to sun herself uh, there while I would look out her at the windows. She was kind of quite the show off. Uh, Missy will be dearly, dearly missed by myself, my parents, and my two brothers. She was a big personality around the house. She let herself be known that she was there, and let us know that she liked us and wanted to be around us. Um, I am I'm really heartbroken to see her go. I really am. But I'm glad to have been with her throughout her life, and it's been an honor and a privilege to have her be a part of mine. I really, really am a lucky, saying really a lot, I know, but I'm a very lucky person to have had someone like that and a cat like that for so long. Um, 17, nearly 18 years, it's a phenomenal amount of time. Possibly a quarter of my life if I'm lucky. Um, it's an old age, so what a significant portion of my life to have such a lovely partner. Thank you, Missy, for being such a lovely and caring friend to me. I will never forget you, and I love you to bits. Uh, and if you're watching, uh, thank you for watching. And hopefully, I'll be back to myself. I hope to be back doing all the things that I normally do on this channel in the next few days. But yeah, thank you, Missy, again. I love you.